Welcome to the RGS at Home video lectures. In this lecture, I will elaborate the interactions between motor and cognitive abilities. Then I will show you how virtual reality can be used to provide both motor and cognitive training at the same time. Typically, cognitive deficits and physical deficits are treated and studied separately from each other. In standard therapy settings, the focus lies often on improving the physical ability and independence of the patient. On the other hand, cognitive rehabilitation focuses on specific cognitive deficits and therefore includes a multitude of interventions, but puts less focus on the physical limitations of the patient. However, we know that cognitive and physical impairments interact. For instance, the process of maintaining balance while walking is typically an automatic process. When we get older, our senses get weaker. We therefore increasingly have problems to maintain postural control. With increasing age, more and more cognitive resources are necessary to maintain balance. It has been shown that people with problems in executive functions or attention have more falls and gait disturbances than individuals without these deficits. Another study illustrated that patients with hemi-neglect and physical impairment had poorer functional outcome in performing their daily activities and lower mobility. Lastly, a meta-analysis found that there was a relationship between the improvement in motor function and improvement in executive function after training. Hence, cognitive rehabilitation methods should not focus on a variety of cognitive deficits alone, but also incorporate motor training in their exercises. There are only a few rehabilitation methods that combine motor and cognitive training. The Rehabilitation Gaming System, short RGS, is one of them. It has been deliberately designed for rehabilitation based on a set of principles that have been shown to be beneficial for learning. It uses virtual reality because certain principles can be implemented more adequately when technology is used, as we will see in the following slides. One of the core principles of RGS is that it provides embodied practice. Embodied practice is grounded on the insights that were obtained from studies of action observation. The tasks within RGS require the patient to perform goal-oriented movements to accomplish a target from a first-person view. The patient is controlling an avatar on a computer screen and observes at the same time the avatar's movement from a first-person perspective. This embodied training in virtual reality has shown to be beneficial to restore motor functions. For instance, by modulating the mapping between the real and the virtual arm, we were able to promote use of the non-paretic limb. The embodied practice could benefit cognitive rehabilitation too, since motor and cognitive skills or training contribute to activity changes in common brain areas. Also, the motor system might be an integral part of the cognitive control system. Based on the embodied training in RGS, we created tasks that animate the patient to use various cognitive skills to achieve a goal. Through machine learning methods, the system learns from the patient's performance and adapts the difficulty of the task gradually and automatically to the actual ability level of the patient. Consequently, the patient is challenged optimally, meaning the task is neither too hard nor too easy to accomplish. It has been shown that learning can be maximized if a task is individualized to the subject and provides training at an optimal challenge level. For instance, increasing the difficulty level of the training automatically to the patient's working memory capacity has led to a significant improvement in working memory in 2 studies. The use of virtual reality therefore enables the patients with different cognitive deficits to train with the same training environment and task. In order to see if the conjunctive training of various cognitive domains in virtual reality leads to an improvement in a heterogeneous group of stroke patients, we performed a pilot study where 30 chronic stroke patients participated. All patients scored low on the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, indicating a cognitive impairment. Half of the patients trained with the virtual reality-based tasks for 6 weeks every workday for 30 minutes. The other half did standard paper and pencil tasks at home for the same amount of time. Before and after the intervention period, as well as at 3 months follow-up, all the patients were tested in standard clinical scales that covered all the domains. We saw that our sample was very heterogeneous. Most patients demonstrated an impairment in all 4 domains investigated. Also, the deficit's severity was spread across the different domains. Next, we wanted to see whether the difficulty adapted optimally to the impairment level of the patients. We stratified the patients according to their impairment level in the spatial awareness domain, and we looked at the difficulty level achieved in one training scenario. In this training scenario, the patients had to remember sequences of stars in a constellation. We can see that depending on their impairment level, they had different levels of difficulty. So severely impaired patients, shown here with a red cross, had easier constellations than those patients that were not impaired or were only mildly impaired. However, all patients achieved a success rate of roughly 70%, independent of their impairment. Hence, the virtual reality-based training scenario did adapt the difficulty optimally, exposing all the patients to a similar experience of success. We then wanted to see how the training influenced cognitive impairment. When we looked at change in the various domains from baseline to after training and to follow up, we see that the patients in the group that trained with the adaptive difficulty improved in attention, spatial awareness, as well as in generalized cognitive functioning. The group that did standardized tasks at home did not show this improvement. Interestingly, we also found that in a subset of patients where we had a measurement for depression, patients that had trained with the adaptive difficulty exhibited less depression after the intervention than the control group. In conclusion, with our virtual reality-based tasks in RGS, we are able to provide not only physical training, but we can as well train various cognitive deficits by adapting the difficulty to the impairment of the patient. This provides each patient with an optimal training experience. The adaptive difficulty mechanism is therefore a valid approach to level out intra-subject variability and gives each patient a positive experience of their success. We have shown that this combined motor and cognitive approach appears not only to be beneficial for improving physical and cognitive deficits, but seems to improve the mood of the patients as well. We therefore believe that a rehabilitation method, which is based on a clear set of principles and that uses virtual reality, can accommodate a large variety of patients through one tailored rehabilitation system. We have reached the end of this lecture. Please try to answer for yourself the following 3 questions. What are the issues in current rehabilitation methods? Can you give an example how motor and physical abilities interact? Which are the 2 learning principles in RGS that aid motor and cognitive recovery? Thank you for listening.